Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. I think looks like we have Jamie, and he's not driving on the highway. Good to see.
And I hope you can hear me.
Yes, of course.
Wow,
And we also
imagine that.
The Eagles guy, Chris on.
Good evening, three.
All right, we can hear you loud and clear, and we'll wait for the Uranko brothers. They're probably, in the background still trying to figure out whether Giants are Cowboys, but let's see. All right, we got Mr. Mark on, and then Steve. Looks like we got everybody. All right. We don't have anyone driving on the highway. Obviously, Jamie is going to be playing Metallica music, but we're excited, guys, and we're, like I said, 4 days removed from the NFL draft, so I'll go last with my Patriots thing. I already did a Patriots podcast with a friend of mine, but I'll go last. But I wanted to see who wants to go first. Maybe we can go with last in last year's NFC East division. And let's see who wants to go first. I think it probably be Jamie. So maybe Jamie, I'll give you the floor. I think I just wanted to hear from each and every one of you about how your team did, what are the needs they addressed, and how confident you feel about the next season.
Yeah, thank you. And it makes sense because we should probably start with the team that had the best draft out of all the NFC East teams. So that makes sense. I'll start off. So where did you want me to start? The needs or?
Yeah, I just want you guys to start about what your team going into the draft, what you thought the needs were, and did you think that they met all those needs, and did you think that they fell short in any department, any position, and then we can talk about the records later, but there's still a long way to go, but at least let's focus on what you thought about the draft, what Adam Peters did for you.
All right. So I felt really good about the draft. And as a side note, I feel really good about the draft every year. But
and then did we have Jamie somewhere? I think. All right.
I'm a Washington fan.
Yeah, I think so. I think this always happens to Washington fans. And, while we're talking, right, we will wait for Jamie to hop back in. But let's go to I think it was the Giants, I think, right? Steve, you want to hear your thoughts, man.
Okay, so Sri, I felt like you had a real insider here when I did the preview because I have to say I'll pat myself in the back. I told you the whole thing about it was a smoke screen. The Giants were not going QB, and I proved to be correct. Giants, and I predicted Neighbors in the first round. They went Neighbors with the receiver was the biggest need they had. Malik Neighbors, who I think is going to be a dynamic playmaker for us and really give Daniel Jones a weapon that he sorely needs, I should say. And then I thought they were going to go defense, particularly the defensive backfield, and they did with the next two picks. They went safety out of Minnesota with the second pick, who some people are saying is the best safety in the draft. So that looks like it's going to be a pretty good pick, and I think he's going to be projected to compete for a starting position in the backfield. The third pick, we went with a slot corner. So you never can have enough players at the D-back position, the cornerback position specifically, because of the game, the way it changes now with the receivers being more of a predominant role over the running back. And then the fourth pick, I actually really liked. I think the whole Darren Waller situation being very uncertain led the Giants to make this pick. And when I was watching the draft, I actually was watching at this point, they said this guy out of Penn State, he has first round talent. I think you hear that a lot when you're watching a draft, 4th, 5th round, first round talent, but he didn't really put up the stats. One thing I'll say though is Penn State was not a very passing oriented team. they were more of a run ball control. I think when they played in Michigan or Ohio State, when the games I was watching, they barely threw the ball at all. I think they had a younger quarterback. So maybe we caught lightning in a bottle there. And then in the fifth round, as I predicted, they were going to go back with a running back, a change of pace type guy, someone that would be a good complement to Devin Singletary. So I think they got that. He's a converted receiver playing running back now who doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. So I think that's what teams are looking for today. They don't want this guy coming out, particularly a running back, who has a lot of carries. And I think we saw that going back even as far as Ricky Williams and Edgerrin James. I don't know if you guys remember that draft, probably somewhere about 20 years ago when the Colts opted for James over Williams. And I think that's
these are the six
predominant thought now. You go with a guy with less mileage. So that's kind of my recap. I'm pretty happy. Like Jamie said, you're always happy with your draft, but I think it hit the positions they needed.
So, Steve, here, right? I know you called it a smokescreen. I want everybody to jump in. But there were 2 trade offers that the Patriots did receive, one from the Giants, one from the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm going to open the floor to everybody else, who wants to chime in and kind of, ask Steve.
I could just jump in quick, though, Sheree. Were they really trade offers, or are these just columnist CYA?
Well, they were. There was definitely where there is smoke, there is fire, like I say.
Well, but you got to realize the Giants were trying to get teams that move up in front of them to draft a quarterback, because then that.
Yeah. Did we lose him again? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to be, you're going to be stuck with Mark and Chris, the Mark and Chris show soon.
Jamie's back on. I'm back on. I don't know who's in control here. I think Shree got jealous of the Jaden Daniels and just disconnected me because he's stuck with Drake May on the Patriots. So maybe I can pick it back up now that Steve left. We'll just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So let me go back to Washington since we're back to the best draft out of NFC East here. I do think that they identified players that fit their mold. They had 9 picks, 6 of them were in the top 100. If you look at a lot of the analysis, and I'm not going to look at draft grades because they went anywhere from a B to A plus, and
And we lost Jamie again. I think this has been a very interesting day so far, but I know it is. Never had this issue, but
you guys
that happens.
You guys can't hear me?
Oh yeah, of course we can hear you. Go ahead.
That's so weird. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So my point is they picked guys that fit a certain mold. All the guys were ranked as in the top relative athletic score. Were all up like 8.45 to 10. It's 1 out of 10. And all of them were like super athletic. They had a lot of football experience. Most of them were captains on the college team that they were on. So they're all leaders. They're all athletic. They're all like very strong work ethic. And you'd like to think that everybody that's drafted has that. But these were guys they were looking for. So they fit those molds. I would say the biggest surprise pick for me was their second pick, which was in the second round. They ended up going with Johnny Newton, which is a nickname for Jezron, which everybody knows. Mm-hmm. But he was ranked as one of the best defensive tackles in the draft, and he fell to the second round. So they were able to – they didn't really need a defensive tackle. They have their 2 Pro Bowl defensive tackles in Allen and Payne. But those are big contracts for both those guys, and who knows how long Allen's going to be there. He's coming up towards the end of his contract. So this Johnny Newton provides that option further out in the year, and he's a rotational guy that can come in and really cause problems on passing down. So I do like that pick, even though they probably could have gone with an offensive tackle, which was tough to watch Dallas pick who they did. It was Guyton, I believe it was, who I think
Right.
Washington was looking at. Green Bay took the other tackle that they were looking at. And then they ended up getting a tackle in the third round who has a lot of potential, very athletic, but a lot of people were projecting him as a guard. So I guess time will tell if, he has all the traits to be a tackle, but we'll see what happens. So to me, they addressed all their needs in both free agency. They signed 25 free agents. So they signed a lot, and they have almost a whole new team because they needed it. They were ranked dead last in defense last year, and they were like towards the end in offense. They ended up. So they really needed to overhaul everything. But I do think.
Yeah,
Go
go ahead. Finish your thought. I do want to get Mark and Chris to just ask you any questions because you thought you had the best draft. Maybe poke a little holes in your thinking or your line of thinking there.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up with the areas that they probably could have addressed a little bit stronger. Definitely offensive line, mainly their left tackle spot, which is a bit of a question mark. And then I do think that defensive back is you're kind of rolling the dice with. Last year they had some strong prospects that just didn't play up to par. They did get up the top slot corner in the draft with Mike Sanders still from Michigan. But there's the outside corners. They're going to burn us if they can't play up to their potential. So, but that's other than that, I think they have a good team. Defensive end is going to be a little bit of a question mark too, but we'll see.
Okay. All right, Mark and Chris, and I don't know if we have Steve back, but Mark and Chris, anything you want to ask the Washington Commanders expert here?
And I will say I thought they had a good draft. I think they had a lot of holes to fill. So anything they're trying to plug and play, I think it's going to happen. They did a nice job in this draft. I will say I probably would give them the nod as far as the draft out of the NFC East. Even though I thought Philly did well with the corners, that was a big need for them. I'm sure Chris will touch upon that in a few. I'll let him go next. But they did touch upon that was a big hole for them, and I think they kind of filled that. I think one thing I will say is like the league today, as we know, we're all big football fans here. It's a pass and catch league, and it was shown that this draft with all the offensive players going. It's just who can score the most, and you can be down X amount of points going into the fourth quarter, but it's I don't know. It's good for fantasy owners, right? We can do a draft later on. I think we're all fantasy owners, but I think the expression, we all know it, back in the day, defense wins championships. I don't know if that's true anymore. I think it really kind of leans to who has the most powered offense, the weapons in the O-line. So with that, I'll push it off to Chris.
Yeah. No, I thank you. So, and I think you had some good points is that I think it's the direction of almost like who can outscore the other guy and try and hold the other one down in the end. But, and obviously, KC, if we want to say they're building that dynasty, they haven't had the greatest defense over the last, few years, but they're winning because of that offense. But, no, I think, from an Eagles perspective, I was pleasantly surprised. I will make my caveat that I'll always make is who the hell knows, right? We all get excited on day one, but like we say, for every Peyton Manning, there's a Ryan Leaf, and for every everyone else, there's a Tom Brady. So you never know, and this is all, it's all on paper right now. But the fact I know, Quinion Mitchell was supposedly the top rated corner in the draft, and I think to the earlier point of the fact that it was such an offensive draft that he kind of fell into the Eagles' lap there at 22, which, I did not expect him to go past, 12 or so. But so I think that was a steal. And just as well with Cooper DeJean, who was also many said it was going to be a first round pick. And the fact they were able to trade up and get him at number 40 is a big deal. And I think, there are two one position for the two of them, but that's a huge position. I think we were terrible at last year. Was 31st against the pass last year, and having two good corners, hopefully that can make an impact quickly, is going to help us get there. And as far as positions, I think we got to all the positions we needed. Now I think the biggest question mark are these, like we got some O linemen late in the draft, the Keegan from Michigan, who was a captain there, and he's supposedly good, but again, these guys who you get back then. I thought it was funny though. Eagles had the first three picks were from Toledo, Iowa, and Houston Christian, that powerhouse, and then we finally got to Clemson, Texas A&M, and Michigan. Yeah, but I think we got the right positions. I'm really excited. I was growing up in Philly in the 90s. We had Jeremiah Trotter, and the fact we got his son now, Junior. I can break out my old jersey for one, and then also the fact that he was a tackle machine at Clemson. So I hope he can do the same thing here. But I think we got us two wide receivers. We got a linebacker, some linemen, a backup for Saquon at running back, and the D-backs especially as the cornerstones, which I think is going to be awesome. So, like Jamie said earlier, I've seen grades from like B+ to an A+. So I think they had a very good draft, but as always, time will tell. I trust Howie, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Trotter fell. I'm surprised Trotter fell so low, like down to the 5th round. I thought he was a pretty highly ranked linebacker prospect. So I was actually hoping Washington would take a flyer on him, and for the number 40 defensive back that you guys got, Cooper DeJean, you could thank Washington for that, because we're the team that traded out of that spot, which
That's right.
which may have given them someone who's going to burn us down the road, because that usually is what happens when they do stuff like that. But time will tell. Going in with two rookie defensive backs to start, like if those guys are going to be your starting cornerbacks, you got two rookie cornerbacks.
We still have
it'll be
Slay,
interesting.
and
It's okay.
I expect it'll be Mitchell and Slay. I mean, Bradbury's been terrible, so I don't. Steve would attest to that. He's not been a great pickup since he left the Giants, but hopefully, if we can get one of them to start, it'll probably be Mitchell. But he's a smaller guy. That's my only concern. I know he's not the biggest guy. If he starts getting into some bump and run type stuff, he's going to get run over probably. But he's definitely a speed guy, and hopefully he's got the finesse to keep up with those guys. So.
Yeah. Before I go to Mark, I wanted to address a couple of things. Mark, you mentioned about the league going all offense. I do think that the first, 13 picks or 12 picks were all offensive positions, and that's pretty much the trend. It has been going on. Kansas City, like you were talking about, Kansas City, they had a pretty good defense. In the early part of the season, they held it on, but Mahomes, it's just a matter of time that Mahomes was going to turn it on, and then when they Mahomes always gets it done. So good comment and good, I would say, analysis there, Mark. And then I'll let you go in. Looks like Mr. Steve is still charging his phone, as he said. So,
So and sure, good pick up there with the first 13 picks being offense. Crazy thing is there was no running back taken, right? So obviously that position is really taking a little bit of a backseat. It's taking a backseat even in fantasy, like fantasy owners. Like you kind of pick maybe a running back in the 3rd, 4th rounds, where back in the day you should take him with your 1st, 2nd round. Now going back to the Cowboy draft, obviously not a sexy draft for the Cowboys, right? But we did fill the holes that we needed. We got offensive linemen, and we got a center. The offensive lineman in the 1st round, Trey Guyton, Tyler Guyton. Big kid, 6'8", 330, coming out of Oklahoma. They need to fill the left tackle of Tyrone Smith. So now Tyler Guyton played right tackle for Oklahoma, but the QB for Oklahoma was a lefty. So they do trust him to guard the backside of the QB. So he's going to fill that role of Tyron Smith leaving. They like the size. They love his footwork. they said his workout, he's really, really into boxing. So his hand speed is very, very good. So obviously you probably need that with the linebackers coming on the backside. You got to get the hands up a little bit quicker with the footwork. I did hear a couple, Mel Kiper. I don't like the word raw. Oh, he's good, but he's raw. So I mean, it makes you a little bit nervous there. But they say he's gonna be a day one starter. So that was our first pick. Dropping to our third pick with Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. We need a center. They said this the steal of their draft right here. He got a grade of an A. He's going to be a day one starter. So happy there with that pick there coming out of Kansas State. And they kind of said he fell there. He fell to the Cowboys. They got that with the Detroit Lions. We're moving up in the draft there when they made the first round pick trade with the Detroit as well. And then we didn't get a running back in the draft, and then I guess maybe because of the background was we picked up Zeke, either yesterday or today, 1 year, $3 million. He's not going to be the Zeke of old, right? But I think he will. I think he'll play hard with his old teammates. I think he's going to probably end his career in Dallas. So I see maybe a lot of like ground and pound with him near the goal line inside the 5. I see. Maybe 6 to 8 touchdowns and maybe 500 yards. And then, maybe they can, they're talking of maybe a pick or a draft, giving something up for Dameon Pierce out of Houston. I think that could be a good combo. Zeke being a little bit more experienced and to kind of him along the way. So, so that's the one need we didn't get as we were looking for a running back. I think the kid out of Texas fell, and it really Cowboys, for their second round, they were going to maybe try to grab him. He went.
Was the wide receiver? Did they pick the wide receiver there or no?
In the second round? No, they went D end.
The end.
Marshawn Nealand, but
Marshawn Nealand. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
from a small school though.
Michigan.
Small schools. That's interesting.
Michigan. Yeah. Yep. So, and so I mean, I think the first pick and the third pick being on the offensive line, that was the need. They're going to be day one starters. So if, like I said, not a sexy draft, not a CD Lamb, not these big receivers, but I think it's something that we need to kind of do to make sure that Dak and others have a great year.
Can I just say I agree with Mark about Zeke. I think he's going to end his career in Dallas. In fact, I think it's going to be week 2. He's going to end his career.
Wow. Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. I think this is good, guys. I mean, everyone went there. I already covered my Patriots stuff with my friend yesterday, but I'll just quickly recap with the Patriots. And, we knew that it was going to be Drake May or Jaden Daniels. And Washington jumped in, picked Jaden Daniels. I would have been fine with either pick. The only thing I would say as a Patriots fan is that Drake May is going to, although, our coach Mayo says that it's going to be a competition, at this point, to the same thing, the Mel Kiper phrase, he's still raw. And I actually had fun listening to Bill Belichick, I think kind of questioning some of his, I would say, footwork. And I think he was pretty good. I think Bill has a new gig, I think being in the on the media, which is quite unusual. But I did like 2 of their wide receiver picks, Jalen Polk from Washington and Jawan Baker. I think those were excellent pick from UCF. The only head-scratching move for the Patriots is that they have a lot of linemen, but they did go with like 2 of them. I think there was a lot of people who wanted one of the Yale guys, Kieran. I don't know his last name. Him to be picked up by the Patriots. The offensive lineman, but they went and picked the guy from Penn State, which is interesting because I think one of you made a comment about Penn State last year was not more a run team, not a passing team. And one of the biggest challenges for the Patriots was they had a lot of problems in the passing last year. I mean, they had Zeke. I really enjoyed Zeke. He was probably one of the best players for the Patriots. I mean, he gave his heart. I really hope that he does well with Dallas, although your competitors may not really agree. But I think he earned his paycheck for Dallas again. I think can't question his heart when he played for the Patriots. So, and again, the other things where the Patriots just went with another quarterback with Tennessee, but like I said, maybe he'll make the practice squad. So here we are, but I do want to get your thoughts on a couple picks that happened. I think we're all pretty happy, like we say, right? We all are happy with the draft, the way our teams looked at what needs they needed. Like, for example, Dallas needed to fill in the offensive line. Philly, you guys did a great job with the defense, I think, really. And Washington, I think a lot of people have heard say that Washington has done a very good job. The most draft things I heard, like both Washington and Philly did a good job in the draft. But like I said, all these things are just out there. No one knows until the players get on the field. I wanted to hear your thoughts on what happened when Atlanta went and picked Michael Penix Jr. I want to hear your thoughts right here.
Okay.
So
I was
let's
as
go.
shocked probably as Kirk Cousins was when that happened, knowing that. I mean, obviously at a pick that high, it's going to cost them a lot of money, and they had just signed. I mean, Cousins is 4 years, 180, and $100 million guaranteed. So, I just makes no sense. Almost seems like a waste of a pick. And like a lot are saying, if anything, you're looking for some people to help Cousins, and
some weapons. You needed some weapons over there.
And then they didn't get an offensive player again until the 6th round, and it was running back. And so I'm just thinking, I'm baffled, because to me, I'm just like, what the heck are they doing? And if you're Kirk Cousins, I mean, you just signed this guy to be the face of your franchise, and then you kind of
4 years, 180 million, Chris.
You're cheating on him. Yeah,
it's not going to last 4 years. I tell you, he's going to ask
no
for
way
something.
now.
He's going to walk away, and I think
he's
he's still got some fuel
in
to
the
take.
face.
I think he goes 1 year where he is, and he's going to bounce around, get something else. I feel bad. I like him, for him not to even a little bit blindsided. I know. Listen, I know NFL is a business, and it's win at all costs. So they must have saw something, but you got to give the guy a heads up. And if the owner is going to be signing that much money and locking someone down for 4 years, they have that good young running back there. I think he's a stud.
Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I think he's good. So, Jane, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, don't forget Kyle Pitts from a tight end perspective, and Kirk Cousins loves to go to the tight ends there. But I do think that it had to be crazy for him sitting there, coming up at pick 8. Rome Odunze was on the board, stud wide receiver from Washington.
Yeah, every time Jamie says Washington, he gets disconnected. So there must be something with his team, I think. But anyway, while we're going back to Kirk Cousins, the other thing I want to talk, Mark and Chris, are the J.J. McCarty going to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, he went pretty high. I mean, there was a lot of, I would say, prop up by his old coach at Michigan, Harbaugh, and I think he got a lot of things. There was even a talk, even Patriots radio stations, about J.J. McCarty potentially landing with the Patriots, and the Patriots wanted to pick him at number 3. But glad they picked May. I wanted to hear what J.J. McCarty has to offer to the NFL. I mean, I think he's going to a good team. I do think he's going to Minnesota Vikings, where they're already loaded on offense. But what do you guys think?
Hey, did I cut out you guys? My phone might have cut out again.
That's okay. Well, the Washington must be the word. Anytime you said Washington, it gets cut out. So I hope it doesn't happen when you guys play on the field.
It's our curse. It's our curse. Just real quick with Cousins. So I was again disappointed. I'm sure he was disappointed, but I understood that they need someone because maybe his injury, that Achilles, might not be fully healed, and they're nervous about that. But the problem is going to be as soon as Cousins comes out there and throws a pick 6 or starts to look subpar, they're going to be cheering for Penix, and that just puts a lot more pressure and adversity on Cousins, and they just basically signed a QB controversy potentially. Anyway, all right, I'll go back to cutting out.
No, go back to JJ McCarty, because I was asking about what you guys thought about JJ McCarty going pretty high, and what you thought his side, what he said his potential in the league.
Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, I would say for me, I feel I didn't think I'm gonna sound bad, right? And maybe I'm a half a Penn State fan, but I was never overly impressed with him in college, and I felt like the team had a lot of weapons that he didn't have to do a lot. That I think is the key, right? Like I don't think he had to be a stud quarterback like some of those other guys like May and the others up top. But so to me, I hate to say he's a stretch at 11, but to me, I think it's a stretch at 11. And I think he'll be one of those. I always hate to say a game manager, but I think he'll be an okay quarterback. But I don't ever see him being something above an okay quarterback. And so to me, in that stage of the first round, it just seems like I don't know. It seemed a little early for me, but what do I know?
100%. I agree. I think a little bit of a, Harbaugh had a short leash with him over in Michigan. I think I'm going to use the word that you just said, the game manager. He was a game manager. He had some good weapons around him, right, in Michigan. He was throwing the ball sometimes, 10, 12 times a game. Obviously, obviously, my first comment and my first statement opening up saying this is an offensive league now where you're throwing the ball maybe 30 to
40 times,
35 times. Like, is he going to have that in him this in this stage of the game? I thought it was a little early too, but I wish obviously I wish everyone luck, but I'm glad I'm not a Minnesota fan. I think
it's going to be
something like that. Jane?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. So it's funny because we all agree on something here. I think I know. It just seems odd that he went from maybe a low round first pick, if that, second round they were talking about, and within a few weeks of the draft hype machine, he was bumped up to the top end of the draft where they were even talking about Washington taking him at number 2. And I think about Michigan. They're a run first. They used to tear up teams on the ground. So of course they're going to, other teams are going to stack 8-9 guys in the box. And I don't know, how hard is it to hit that one out of his 8 or 9 passes a game if they're all playing up in the box and there's no safety help? So it'll be kind of interesting to see, okay, does he have those skills? Because they kept saying he makes the throws when he needs to make them. How much of that was the defenses were just ready to stop the run and not game planning for pass with him? Now they're going to game plan for pass in the NFL. And I mean, what he's going to try to manage the game, but it's not going to go that well. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
So, Jeremy, here's a thing I wanted to bring up. I agree with all, like you said, right? We've all agreed on something about J.J. McCarty, and he may go and prove us wrong, which is fine. But one of the things that I did hear, I think we watched this game too, when they played Alabama, they were down by 7, and McCarty actually hit 4 or 5 passes, in a row. Yeah. One was 15 yards, 20 yards, 15 yards, and then a touchdown, right? So that's the one a lot of people are going back to and saying, well, you cannot question the heart of a champion. But I agree with you guys in terms of Michigan was probably one of the best defensive teams in the country. And we saw what they did to Washington in the national championship. They destroyed Michael Penix Jr., and then he got hurt. It didn't help. But, with Odunze and Jalen Polk, Washington didn't have any, Penix didn't have any chance to even throw the ball to his, excellent wide receiver. So I see that the verdict is still out. And like I said, he could go out and prove us wrong. But I think I agree with all of what you guys said. So anything that you guys want to talk about in the state of the league, in terms of, like we said, we already agreed where it's going from an offensive standpoint. But I do think that, defense, I think will keep you in the games. But when it gets to the playoffs, I think it's offense going forward, I think. I definitely agree.
Defense could actually, what I would say is, what was the old term? A defense wins championships. Now it's defense could land you in the basement of the NFC, which is what we saw last year for Washington. I'm going to be interested in 2 things that are unique this year. I don't think they're doing 2-hand touch yet, but they keep taking away different tackles, so that now it's with the hip swing. You can't use your hip to tackle somebody, and it just seems like, how are they going to stop themselves from like turning their hips while they're pulling someone down. So that'll be kind of interesting to see those penalties if that impacts the game somehow, which I think it would. And then the kickoffs, the way they're doing the kickoffs will be interesting too. And I almost wonder if like Washington drafted a couple, like they drafted a linebacker, they signed a couple free agent linebackers. So it's almost like teams are switching their strategy for special teams where they don't need the kicker with a big foot to kick it out of the end zone every time. They might want to get it into that sweet spot to cause a return. And then instead of having these guys on the end that are speed guys to get down the field, they could just use the linebacker size players on special teams to make the tackles. So it almost like I wonder how much that changed some of the draft strategy in the back end of the round, like 4, 5, and 6. So I don't know. That'll be interesting to watch this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the kickoff one was the special. That was a different one that we'll all look at. It may either, end up with a lot of kickoff returns, or like you said, right? I mean, the team's actually, kind of generating a fumble or something like that. Let's see what happens, right?
So they said the straw that broke the back there was in the Super Bowl. There was 11 or 13 kickoffs, and that one was taken out of the end zone.
Yeah. I mean, that is the problem. Is that
interesting?
It's not on play anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and I think that, and listen, I always said, why take it out? A, there's a chance of a fumble. B, probably 50 or 60% there's going to be a flag, right?
Yeah.
and then C, just take the ball at the 25-yard line, right? So, I don't know.
I'm almost interested to see what percentage of the time when they took it out did they get to the 25. It was probably like maybe 30% of the time they made it to the 25 or beyond.
Yeah, there's no incentive to actually.
I just feel like,
it.
It's just, exactly. So that would be nice to see some returns. See how that.
Yeah, although it's interesting that, when you look at, special teams, it didn't get, and I know going back, 20 years and for the Patriots, Bill would always pick like special team because he was a special teams guy. So did Harbaugh from Ravens. These guys are all special team guys, but maybe it generates a lot more excitement in the league. Remains to be seen. But overall, I think the league is going in a, like I said, right? Offense from a skill position standpoint, defense maybe a little bit, and then maybe special teams is the third. I would say almost like. It's not going to generate more points like the offense does or something like that. Let's see what happens. The other thing I wanted to bring was the commissioner did talk about the expansion to 18 games and maybe reducing to 2 preseasons and then moving the Super Bowl to 1 week later to coincide with the President's Day, which would give us a 3-day weekend, which I think it's a great idea. But, I wanted to hear your thoughts, guys.
Well, I think obviously the league's about money, right? And the 2 points to that is, one, no one cares about the preseason. No one plays anymore and takes it seriously. Like, it's basically the audition for the guys who are probably not going to play. Like, the starters for 90% of these teams and players is already determined today. Yes, we have our new draftees and there's going to be some battles, but the preseason became just a non-event, and they half the time you can't even give those tickets away. So for the NFL, they're probably looking at it as 2 more weeks to make millions of dollars and charge ESPN, charge NBC, ABC, Fox, whoever else wants to join in, and get the extra money at the gate and everything else. And so
you missed the Prime. Chris, you missed the Amazon Prime now.
Yeah, I know, the billions of dollar contract that they have. So yes, all these different sponsors are going to spend more money because there's 2 more games, and it gets us, the rest of us are going to be on TV on a Thursday night watching. And so I think for the NFL, it makes dollars. Obviously, my biggest gripe is always for the record books is like, yes, a 1,000-yard rusher is like, you anyone can do that at this point if you're playing 18 games. I mean, it's not.
I'm lacing them up right now, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get your sons ready. They could get 800 probably today. So it's like, it's just those kinds of things, and it's greed, but it's also, I mean, it'll get us watching because it's a regular season game.
We will
They
watch it.
said,
'cause-
Yeah, but players union,
yeah.
they don't.
Go ahead.
The players union is going to be. They could have something to say about that because they're adding more wear and tear to their.
Yeah.
So it'll be. That's always a thing.
One more week.
Someone named
They say,
Steve.
like, all the
Someone named Steve joined the call. Is that can't be
Back
right?
in,
Is that-
guys.
Yeah, Steve, we want to get your final thoughts on a lot of things. So let's start with, we could start with Kirk Cousins, then we can go to JJ McCarty, then we can go to all these rules. But before we get to all of them, wanted to hear, your thoughts on, we all went through each of our drafts, and I think you got dropped off just when we were talking about where there is smoke, there is fire kind of thing, where, they made some calls to the Patriots. But, I think you're happy with the draft. I just wanted to hear where you are with that. And then we can jump into what you thought about Kirk Cousins and then JJ McCarty being picked that high. And then we can come back to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, just to wrap up with the Giants, I sort of thought it was a smokescreen the whole time because I just thought that they were trying to get people to jump up in front of them so they'd get maybe a Marvin Harrison or solidified neighbors or maybe the linemen. So because they obviously weren't interested in McCarthy at 4 or Penix at 4. I don't know how I.
Well, it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, it's good while it lasted because I thought it was just Washington, but I think it's also Giants. Looks like I think the two guys who are staying is the one and two teams in the league right now.
That's fine.
Eagles and the Cowboys, right? So
our old defensive
draft every year.
Our old defensive coordinator is running our technology right now. That must be it.
Exactly.
Can you not hear me?
yeah, we
No,
can
now-
hear you
now I can-
Go
now
ahead,
we can.
Steve.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said, or
No.
Shake your cord. Steve still got the cord. The
the money for technology is handed out the way we finish in the standings. So Jamie and I are in the low end.
Yeah.
No, I just said I always thought it was a smokescreen with Jones, and I think it proved it a little bit. They would have taken McCarthy if they wanted at 4. They didn't. They could have.
And again, we lose them again. I think.
So here's a question I always feel like, and I don't know if it's like, how come the Super Bowl is never played on that Saturday night? Why do they got to wait for that Sunday? And you already they already got the rest, right? It's almost 2 weeks already, and they're playing games like back in the day. They never played playoff games on Saturday, and that's something new, probably the last 10, 15 years.
And I would think
right?
they'd get more money, right, if they do it on a Saturday night.
And a
where
Saturday night.
Let's say the
Yeah.
bars and restaurants. Would
I just think the hotel money, though, you get the whole weekend hotels. They don't want to give that up. The cities.
Oh, yeah, good point there. Good point. But I do think that if they go to an 18 games, which, like you said, right, the players' union is going to have something to do with it. They may actually come back and say, okay, give us more guaranteed money. That could be the case. Yeah, and they will. I know the NFL's got it's a cash cow, and then with the 3-day weekend, I think it's more incentive for these. As it is, right? You do see that, right? As it is, you get a lot of teams or a lot of fans coming in earlier, a lot of money in the city. And I think they should go to only warm weather cities. I think I'm done with any more cold weather cities. I know they played a Super Bowl they played in New York and they played in Detroit,
they took a
and Minnesota.
chance
I think they should go back to New Orleans, Vegas, Miami, or any of those warm weather cities. I think so. I think this has been fun, guys. I think we will definitely come back to do some more as we get closer and closer to the season. Definitely want to do this, with all the technology we have. Definitely want to do like a weekly, I would say, a preview, and then maybe like post recap and schedules. But any last minute thoughts, guys, in terms of before we wrap up? I'll go with this time. We'll go with the first place guy, which is I think Dallas.
Yeah. So I will say I think it's going to be a super competitive division. I think 11, 12 wins will win the division. I got the Cowboys, at probably 11-6. I think it's either going to be close to a division winner or wild card. The Cowboys just need to get over that hump. And if somehow they don't get it this year and make that type of run, I think there's going to be changes up in the front office and, at the head coach. And I think they have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle. And I'm going 11-6, possible division winner, definitely wild card, somewhere's in the playoffs, and need to get to the NFC Championship game to renew contracts at the QB level and at the head coaching level. Philadelphia, what do you have?
No, well, I will say first, I think all four of our teams improved this last week with the draft and the trades and everything else. So that scares me, but I'll stick with my 10 wins for the Eagles, which is probably second place. And hopefully if these two D-backs actually come through and are good shutdown corners, then in that case, maybe we get that 11th or 12th win to put us over the hump. But like Mark said, I think it's a do or die for the Sirianni Hurts marriage, and if it doesn't end well, it's probably the last year for Sirianni. But
there's a guy called Bill Belichick waiting in the wings for both your teams.
I know. There's better things to be had.
I think he has a winning record. I heard he has a winning record.
Yeah, he's okay.
All right, we'll go to Steve if we're still here.
Get Steve before he drops. I'm one to
We're
talk.
going to give him 6 wins. We're going to give him 6 wins, like we said. Yeah.
What do you got, Washington?
Yeah. Well, first I'm agreeing with Mark's Dallas prediction, except for the playoffs will be one and done. I think the odds are pretty high for that. Let's say I'm going to stick with. I'm going to go 9-8 for Washington. They're going to be a bit of a surprise this year, just because the coaching staff. I think they have a strong coaching staff. They have the players around. I think they have the players that could help defense get better. I mean, they can't get any worse than they were last year, right? So I do think that they're going to be better. I think they're going to make a bigger jump in the wins total than what a lot of people will predict. But I don't know. I just think it's the start of rebuilding, and whether they go 9-8, 8-9, or even a little bit like even 7 wins, which I think the Vegas has them at 6.5 for win total this year. I could just be excited that the future is gonna look brighter, hopefully, because I don't know if I could take another whole regime change after like 2 years in. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Just remember this, though. We still have a lot of cap space. So it'll be interesting to see once some of these teams cut some of their high-priced veterans after the draft, if Washington picks up a starting left tackle or if they pick up a starting DN that's a cap casualty. So there's still some room to fill those holes that they might not have fully addressed in the draft. So I'm kind of still hanging in there to see what happens.
Okay. I think we do have Steve, I think. And we give you 6 wins, Steve. If you want to counter that, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
For now.
Okay, great. I'm going to be optimistic and go at 8. I figure we'll pick up 2 at Washington like we normally do, and that just leaves us 6.
He thought 6 was too much.
I figure we get 2 against Washington, 1 against Philly, and I don't know about Dallas.
All right.
But I think it's a make or break year for Daniel Jones, obviously, right? I mean, and it, maybe the coaching staff
Not
as
a
well. They
smoke
went out on a
screen.
limb
Not a
for
smoke screen,
Jones.
Steve.
Yeah.
What's that?
Basement dweller.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Again.
You know what?
And their coach will be out. If he finishes in last place, Giants coach will probably be looking for a new job.
I agree. I agree. We got to do something here. We got to be at least 500.
They have that bad of a season, 4, 5, 6 wins. I think Giants will make some changes in the front office, head coaching, and then maybe part ways with Jones.
They're
I
already.
think, but I have to say one thing. I think Philly, Dallas, and Giants coach are in the hot seat. Washington's probably the only coach that is not in the hot seat.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
more pressure on Philly and Dallas.
All right,
And
guys. I appreciate the time, Shree, as always. Boys, good luck, and I'm sure we'll regroup before the season starts.
Yes, for sure, man. Yes, for sure.
breaking news. I got breaking news. Hassan Diarra is
guys.
coming back to
Have a good
UConn.
Yes, I heard about that. So
All
this
right.
is good. We'll do a UConn, Steve. I do definitely want to do like a UConn after they, end up with their roster. Definitely do that. But for now, this NFL thing was pretty fun, and I think I wish you guys all great seasons, and we'll go from there. And thanks for joining, guys. And we got it through with one shot.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Trey.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.